Yes.
In the back, please.
Terry Sater from WISN TV. Is there a point in time which you're going to release the details of this manifesto that he's written, and if not, why not?
Well, right now that's still being analyzed. As you can gather, it's quite a lengthy document, and so for you to really take a look at every bit of that, try and make some determination if it has any meaning, is very time consuming, and that is actually still what's going on now. We're addressing this issue because obviously it appears that copies of it are surfacing around. We don't know how many copies, but they are surfacing. So at some point when the investigation is concluded and we're at a point where either conviction has been made or however it's resolved, obviously then it doesn't become part of the evidence, and we'll see if that can be released at that time. It'll make a determination at that time, but it won't be released anytime in the near future.
In the back, sir.
Sheriff, can you say the portions that have been released, are those the real thing? And what do you make of, I guess, what was released?
We haven't taken the time to look at what has been released and compare it to the document that we have. And the reason we haven't done that is because it would take away from investigative time. We have to go page by page to compare it. And we don't want to take away from our investigations for that duty. We've got our people tasked. They're out working on leads today. We're well over 700 clues and leads that we need to run on. So we've not verified that, but we stand ready to answer any questions on the document that has been released to you folks.
And so, as you're going over the manifesto, any mention of schools? What's your view on the threat that was towards schools in the beginning?
I'm glad you brought that up because this whole incident started with school safety concerns. I'm going to take you back to last Thursday morning early. A citizen approached a Janesville police officer and said that he had information about Mr. Jakubowski and the fact that he was involved in this burglary. And as the officers interviewed him, he said, I don't know what his plan is, and he made some mention of schools. Nothing specific, no specific school, no specific threat, but there was a mention of schools. Later that same morning, at about 7:13 a.m., there was a report of a citizen drove up in a car, picked up a long gun or a rifle from the terrace area of Lincoln Lincoln Elementary School. So when you bundle those two facts together, we have talk about something bad that could happen at a school, and then we get another call for service that there is a rifle at a school. That was very concerning to the sheriff and myself, and that set into motion the contacts that we had with the schools and the soft lockdown. Now flash forward to today, we've been able to work the case of the rifle that was located on the terrace of Lincoln School. We've made an arrest on the person that had dropped that gun off and picked it up, and it appears, strongly appears, that it has nothing to do with the Jakubowski investigation. It was a separate theft and a separate incident that just happened to occur or present itself on the same day that we were working on the burglary and the guns with Mr. Jakubowski. So while this all started with a school perspective and a school concern, that has been reduced significantly because when we look at the documents written by Mr. Jakubowski, there is little indication of schools in it. And I hope that this information gives some comfort to our communities. It certainly will give some comfort to our schools because these appear to be two separate incidents that unfortunately happened on the same day.
Sheriff, you mentioned copies that are apparently circulating in reference to writings by Jakubowski. Do you believe Jakubowski or anyone working with him is disseminating this information in this back channel way?
And we have no knowledge that he's doing it or who's doing it. Obviously someone is. Obviously with the amount of media attention, if you have a copy of this or if you were given a copy of this, I'm certain that the temptation to either notify the media or to create copies yourself is possibly out there.
But do you think he widely distributed the manifesto or similar writings before he took off?
We believe that he did put some forth out there. We know he made copies. obviously because we received one from a citizen that came forward. We just don't know the exact number of how many he created before, he sent the original one, which is what he did send. The original one did go to the White House.
Baxter.
Are you continuing to stay in contact with the individual who recorded the video of Jakubowski at the post office? And do you have any reason to believe that there is an associate in Janesville or in Rock County who's continuing to provide assistance, whether it's safe harbor or any other type of aid?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, we continue to contact and interview all persons that are involved in this case. The person that videotaped that matter is one of those individuals. They continue to be interviewed by all of our detectives. With respect to your question, if he's in the area as accomplices here, we don't know that, and we still do not know his location. We don't know if he's in the southern Wisconsin area or other places far, far away.
In the front, please.
Just on that, I was wondering when it comes to the tips, how far afield are they coming in from? Are they coming from out of county, out of state? And is there any way of putting a sense of what proportion of them are alleged sightings?
Well, I would say that the majority of them are coming locally and we're getting some from throughout the state of Wisconsin. That's not to say that we haven't received some from outside of the country or outside of the state as well. I know that we've gotten some from as far away as Texas, as far away as Oklahoma. Some folks think they see something in their state or whatever, and again, as we've always said, is that we want you to make that call, and again, that number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. So we would encourage you to continue to do so, even if you think that it's nothing at all. It might be the one tip that leads to getting him into custody.
In the back, sir.
Have you narrowed your search today? Are you still searching rivers and lakes? Any information that would help you narrow your search?
Well, we concluded searching the lakes and rivers yesterday. And so today we're just looking at additional areas. We've mapped out a strategy of search patterns that we want to do. And we're in the process of doing that. I'm obviously not going to comment on where those are because we don't want to give any advantage to anybody that is either helping him or to him himself.
Why rivers and lakes?
Yeah, we know where the burglary occurred, and we know where his vehicle was burned, and we know that there are many abandoned properties in that area. There are cottages that are not used this time of year, and so due diligence would tell us that we should look for those areas, and certainly the searches along the river's side gives us a different view of those properties. So it's just following up on some of those tips and doing a proper investigation.
In the back,
Do
please.
you have reason to believe that he's altered his appearance, or were some of those photos just precautionary measures?
Those are we just put that out there in case he has. And so it's simply a fact that, it's typical for suspects to, either dye their hair or shave their head or get rid of their mustache. So this gives, again, what we're counting on is the eyes and ears of our citizens to take a look and see that he may be in a different type of disguise, or he may have changed his looks. So that's really more, again, just trying to enhance our ability to gather intelligence and get information.
Sir.
What is the latest about anything that you've gathered from talking to friends, associates, family about what might have changed or what might have led to this in the last several weeks or months, given that it's my understanding he wasn't really on the radar for this type of action?
The FBI has looked at this closely, particularly with their behavioral analysis unit, and we all understand that typically there is a triggering event that causes this change in ideology, the anti-government view and the anti-religion view. But to date, we've not found that triggering event, nor may we ever. What may not be a triggering event for the two of us could be a triggering event for Mr. Jakubowski.
In the back.
In terms of the manifesto, you referenced ruling out the whole aspect of schools and school safety. What about that document still gives you concern in terms of him being a dangerous individual?
Well, I think if you look overall at the document, There is a great deal of anger towards government, towards society as a whole, towards what he believes is an unfairness towards the masses. He speaks of the police being used to keep average citizens enslaved. He uses the word slave quite a bit. He feels that the politicians and those in power have abused their power, and that the religion as a whole is bad and is used to gain financial gain and to again keep people enslaved, to alter their thinking. So when you look at that document, and then you take a look at the fact that the day that, or thereabouts, he breaks into a gun store and steals a great deal of weapons, rifles, handguns, and 18 to be exact, and he takes those guns and then burns his vehicle, which we know was pretty much his pride and joy. That is concerning. And so based upon that, based upon the number of weapons he took, what appears to be a great deal of anger towards governmental institutions, we feel that he is posing a threat. And the good thing on this is that he has not hurt anyone. And as I've been pointing out, and as the chief has pointed out, no one's been hurt, and we understand he has grievances. And again, we encourage him to turn himself into the authorities. We are more than willing to discuss what those grievances are, but he has to do the right thing and come forward. We don't want people to get hurt, and we don't want him to get hurt.
So can I follow up really quickly? So you said he hasn't hurt anyone yet. Is there a point in time when you all might not go about this as aggressively as you are?
That would be a decision that we'll make in the future, but right now we're focused on today. We're focused on what we're going to do today. We're planning on what our strategy will be tomorrow. But that is obviously something that will be discussed in the future. My hope is that today he'll walk into a police agency, either ours or Janesville's or wherever he is, and turn himself in, and we can let our community know that it's safe, and let our citizens know that they're safe.
Have any of the 18 guns taken in the burglary surfaced for sale or in any other way?
None of the weapons have surfaced.
Is it a concern that it seems that this manifesto was distributed before, that Tuesday gun shop robbery, that people may have known what was coming?
Well, I think the fact is that you may have people who received it, and because it's so long, they didn't take the time to read it. Or it started reading it, and then when you start reading it, sometimes it candidly speaking, it rambles on, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think that somebody who really doesn't know him or doesn't appreciate what his intentions are may have just thrown it out.
I was just wondering, going back to his anti-religion stance, are you going to take extra security measures around churches and places like that over Easter weekend?
Yeah, this goes on into the holiday weekend. We will have extra patrols at the churches in Rock County. We've already have that staffing set up for throughout Rock County and Janesville. Those patrols will be there.
The Janesville Gazette reports that relatives say he spent his last amount of money to buy a bulletproof vest and a helmet, and that he had even applied for food stamps unsuccessfully. Has that in part led you to any sort of a conclusion that there must be accomplices to allow him to remain at large?
Well, we can't rule that out. I mean, we're obviously that's a possibility, but right now we just don't have the information nor the evidence of anybody that's assisting him. We know that he has, had relationships with people locally. We know that he purchased this helmet and this vest. But beyond that, we don't really have any definitive information that someone is helping him. Obviously, if they are, they're putting themselves at risk, and obviously they will be facing, investigation from us and from federal authorities.
With the anti-religious sentiment that's been surfaced in the manifesto, is there any indication that he will come back up on Sunday? Is this any sort of indication in the investigation going forward that this is when he wants to make his last stand, if you will?
That's an important point. while he has these anti-religious feelings, there is no threat, no specific threat, no threat of violence, no specific threat of any type of religion, no specific threat of any location, but we know that he has this general distrust and dislike of religion, which is concerning to us. So when, as we lead our law enforcement agencies and we're responsible for our citizens, it's appropriate for us to have the proper patrols out there for that Sunday, but there's no specific threat.
Is he being considered an anarchist at this point?
Well, an anarchist, in its simplest form, suggests that a person wishes to be free of government, and in those writings, I would draw that conclusion, yes.
In the manifesto, he made reference to wanting to go out on live TV. Is there any other mention of media in that manifesto?
No, not really. I mean, I think he talks about at the end of the document, he makes some statements, but there's really nothing that is talking about the media too much. I mean, basically, again, it goes back to his grievances of those he feels that are being oppressed and those who are having their thoughts altered because of religion and because the government oppresses them.
Yeah, check which question to ask. School officials, have you talked to them? Are you talking to them? Will you talk to them and tell them they can breathe easier now?
Certainly, they're tracking these press conferences. We will be reaching out to the school districts and share the updated information that we have. With respect to the person that was arrested for the gun at Lincoln School, that just occurred last night and into today, so that's fairly new information that we are now able to share.
Chief Moore, just as a follow-up to that, as much as you say it's not connected to Jakubowski, it's still concerning. Can you give us any sense as to why someone would have been at an elementary school with a long gun?
Again, it's a fairly new break in our case. My inclination is that he, as illogical as this sounds, it sounds like he just threw it in these bushes to get it away from himself and was leaving it there. It doesn't make sense, but we do not have any indication that he intended harm to anyone with these guns, and it was just a theft.
The people that had the manifesto prior to this becoming such a big thing, what type of affiliation did they have with Jakubowski in terms of, was it a larger group or association? Were they relatives? Were they a very loose association of friends?
The one person that we know had this document, who then gave it to the sheriff's office, was a social acquaintance of him. We believe that there are other copies out there based upon, some of our interviews. Again, we don't know the number. We don't know who has them. Honestly speaking, I'm surprised that he didn't send some to you. But at the same time, he has his own agenda and he has his own plan. And, right now we're trying to determine exactly what his intentions are. And we can respond accordingly.
Any affiliations with militia groups or patriot groups that have been established?
Not that we've been made aware of.
Are there threats to any specific individuals in the manifesto, whether it's law enforcement or anyone in government?
He does not like the police in a general sense, and I look at that as being an extension of government. I mean, we're the most obvious form of government that you see on a daily basis out on the street, so he has dislike for police. He has concerns with President Trump. I mean, it was mailed to President Trump, although there was not a specific threat to President Trump, but beyond that, there's nobody named in the document.
Pictures of his tattoos, you all released those this week. Any significance in regards to those?
We're still taking a look at those and doing some analysis on them, and we haven't made a determination what, if anything, they stand for. We have spoken with individuals, and we do believe that some of those he may have created himself, We're not,
Tattooed himself?
yeah, he may have done himself, but that's something we haven't confirmed. Beyond that, we haven't gained any intelligence yet. That's something also that we're analyzing and trying to make sure that, it doesn't associate itself with any type of group or any type of organization.
Has there been any clues at all that in his preparation for this that he gained some survivalist abilities or anything like that? Or?
He was researching some survivalist tactics. He has some survivalist equipment, but to say he is a survivalist, I don't think we are in that category.
Last night, you said that the boy tattoo is no longer relevant. How were you able to determine that he no longer has that or has somehow changed that tattoo? And will you be able to release details as to what that tattoo now is on his arm?
Yeah, you've got me at a loss on that one. I'm trying to recall that, but I can tell you that I think what it was that we were trying to make a determination on what that letter actually was, and we haven't been able to do that. So was it, because one of the letters was, because it wasn't done very well, it was hard to determine what that letter actually was.
We received information earlier this week that a neighbor who once lived by him nearly 10 years ago described him as driving a Dodge SUV that seems to be the vehicle that he burnt out. Have you developed a profile if there's a certain type of vehicle that he favors and that he might be trying to narrow in on?
Well, he was fond of that vehicle, and we all tend to be creatures of habit. So I suppose if you want to say if there's a vehicle of preference, it would be something like what he had.
Do you know if he's contacted any of his acquaintances since the burglary happened?
Not to our knowledge, and obviously we're monitoring them. Thus far, they have all been very cooperative with law enforcement, and we, on a regular basis, have conversations with them. Now, whether or not they're being truthful with us, we would hope they would, because there's serious consequences if you are not. But we are being told that he has not made contact with them at all.
We talked about security for churches, houses of worship. What about government buildings? I mean, government is a big issue with him. What about government buildings and government officials?
Well, if you read this document and if you consider where it was mailed, and there seems to be a larger federal concern when you talk about making systemic change and revolution, that seems to indicate that it's something larger than a local issue. And so that's why we've shared it with all of our partners, U.S. Capitol Police, Secret Service, and those types. I mean, this was not mailed to the Rock County Courthouse, and it wasn't mailed to City Hall. It went to Washington. And so with that, we don't know what his focus with government is. Certainly, we have shared safety concerns with all government offices in the Rock County area. I would trust that with our continued message of anti-government rhetoric, that our law enforcement partners throughout Wisconsin and throughout the nation will also be aware of this, have his photo posted, be aware of your surroundings, call us when you see something suspicious. But as far as any lockdown of government facilities, I'm not aware of any.
The only thing I would add is that we have a increased presence at the courthouse with our deputy sheriffs, and we also have a deputy sheriffs that have been monitoring UROC, the local college, as well as Blackhawk Technical College, and that was at the request of both of those institutions.
Were there any contacts with any sort of mental health systems or professionals that he had at any time in the last few years leading up to this?
No, not that we've been made aware of. It's obvious that he obviously did go through some type of change, but unfortunately we don't have that. So no, we're not made aware of that. Excuse me.
Like 2 more questions, and then there. You've obviously profiled him. Do you think he's of the lone wolf kind of person that acts on his own, is just doing this, internally and not with a lot of encouragement or association?
I can give you the answer to that when we solve this case.
You said that he has some survivalist equipment. Do you know if he has any of that with him, or did he leave that at home at his sister's house or in his burned out car?
We don't know if he has it with him now or not.
Thank you, everyone. That's the end of the questioning time. Chief Moore, do you have any final statements you wanted to make?
I hope that you understand the uniqueness of this case. Many times with mass casualty events, we have the mass casualty event first. People are harmed, people are killed, and then it is after that that we have this lengthy investigation to see what led up to it. And oftentimes we find that there was indications going into that mass casualty event that could have been caught. This is different. We had some clues going into this, and that is what we're investigating in hopes of stopping what could be a mass casualty event. So with that, we urge Mr. Jakubowski to turn himself in. Go to a friend, a family member, somebody that he trusts, and call the police and turn himself in. No one has been harmed yet, and we think that that is a great opportunity for him and his family to bring closure to this and to do the right thing.
Sure, Spoden.
Well, as we know, we do have the religious holidays are going to be starting tomorrow, Good Friday, and then we have Easter on Sunday. And again, I want to encourage all of our citizens to, obviously be cautious, but go and worship as you normally do. Go to your churches, go be with your families. Be aware that the Sheriff's Office and the Janesville Police Department, as I'm sure many municipalities across the state, are going to be at a heightened level, and we are going to ensure that people can worship, and they can do so in a peaceful manner, and they can do so safely. So for those of you who are contemplating not going to church, I would tell you to make your decision based on your own personal needs, but know that the Sheriff's Office and the police departments across the state are going to do everything they can to ensure that we have a safe and peaceful holiday weekend. And then finally, I would just like to echo what the chief said, and that is that, again, no one has been hurt. Sometimes we make a mistake, and those mistakes we can correct, we can work through. So far, what Joseph has done is correctable, and we encourage him to do the right thing for his community, his family, and go to an authority and turn yourself in. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes this.